Hey, how you doing? How are you? Welcome to the Star Wars Minute. It's your daily podcast in which we analyze, we scrutinize, and we celebrate the rise of Skywalker, 1 minute at a time. I'm Alex Robinson from alexrobinson.fun.
I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.fun.
I'm Joe Dator, and I'm taking one last look at my friends. Central Perks
Friends
stainless steel travel mug from the Friends Experience in Midtown Manhattan. Tickets available now.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm Suzen Tekla Kruglnska from the Comedy Film Funnel, which Joe is also from. Shining 237, Rosemary's Baby 666, and Back to School. Back to School. I'm back in school. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, I thought you were doing a Back to School podcast about Rodney Dangerfield.
I should.
So you are Rodney Dangerfield back to school.
Yeah. Speaking of not getting
the money.
Goonies at the right time, that's another Back to School, but my wife did not find anything to appreciate in Back to School.
She's like that crusty old dean.
No, that hit me perfectly. I was right there for it.
I am that person. I'm like way too old and I'm back in. I mean, I'm like sitting in classrooms with 22-year-olds. That's my life now. But what the heck?
Well, I got to say, it's a very unbelievable movie. I mean, Rodney Dangerfield was in his 50s. Are we meant to believe he's a college student? It's ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah. And
Well,
so now you're
closing
experiencing that for real.
Thanks for closing out the week
unbelievable movies
with us here on Star Wars Minute. Let's focus, everybody. Talking about minute 45 of the rise of Skywalker. Minute 45 starts off with Poe revealing that he had a little bit of bad luck on Kijimi. Kijimi, right? That's how you say it.
Kijimi. I don't know.
And it ends a minute later with the lifeless form of the droid we will come to know and love as Dio.
That's right.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker, episode 45. Bad luck on Kijimi.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be one of the password things because he does start the sentence. What's the last thing he says? I was hoping you guys would do the password thing, or what's it called? No, match game. We're all. What does he say? Because I was going to say, whatever the beginning of the sentence was, the ending for me was going to be have sex with a Power Ranger.
Wow.
Oh, I had a heck of a Star War. Anyone else?
What? I didn't know we had a cutoff. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention.
I was all set for that.
Let me see if I could find one of my old ones for zero context.
So while
I was going to say I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy. That's what Poe was going to say.
Okay.
I knew Kathleen Kennedy. You are no Kathleen Kennedy.
I misunderstood what you meant by the match game thing. So it's by Friday's show, I'm drunk. There you go. That's the thing I was doing for match game.
And that's a match. That's the most acceptable answer. So.
Yes.
Yes. Minute 45.
Let's all, speaking of getting drunk, let's all have a cheers to Poe Dameron, who momentarily considers not saving the galaxy just in order to avoid his ex.
Yep.
You can tell he has a moment of
maybe let's just...
I think it's strange that he says, I had some bad luck on Kijimi, and no one says, what do you mean? Finn just starts giving a big speech about, we have to do this for Chewbacca. Like, he doesn't know anyway, I thought that was an odd disconnect between, it seems like the human nature would be someone to say, what do you mean? Or what, can you explain what you mean by the bad luck? So,
I have a feeling he says that all the time. Like, he says that all the time. They're like, yeah, more of this, yeah.
Right.
Because they kind of imply that earlier in the dialogue in the movie where they're just like, oh, you and your crazy backgrounds. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which
it seems like, I don't know,
unfold a bit here in this movie. It's like we didn't get too much of it earlier, and now suddenly they're learning about his background.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like like if you know this guy long enough, you might just say, yeah, the less I know about that, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really feel like hearing a whole thing now.
Right.
But Finn gets to give a stirring speech.
Yeah, you got to hear a different whole thing now.
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do it for Chewie.
Hands for Chewie. Alex, here's going to be my suggestion. Let's take the Hands Across America logo and make it Hands for Chewie. I'm gonna put it up on the. Let's put it up on the site. No, but I don't know if anybody's going to buy that. I can't even picture the Hands Across America logo.
Yeah.
Cash
Also,
Although it did have a resurgence with
Us.
us.
if you
yeah.
did do a
you
logo
guys
and it was
did it?
accurate to the Wookiee fingers, it would disgust people. So
Yeah, we don't want
it
that.
would freak people out really
Hands for
badly.
Chewie because his are gross, and we need to replace them. with-
Weird Wookiee fingers. Whenever you see them, you just, ugh, I don't want to see that.
Like a cookie,
Yeah.
Wookiee fingers.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fingers, after Finn gives his big rousing speech to everyone, they all kind of, what is that called where everyone puts their hands in the middle? What is that term? It's not a high five. It's a,
Yeah, hands for Chewie.
I mean, we see basketball
called now,
players
like-
do it all, sports people do it all the time. There must be a term
Right.
for that thing. Anyway,
Yeah, it's called a fist king. It's like a rat king where they
Fist
get all
king.
stuck together by their tails. It's a fist king. Let's do the fist king thing.
yeah, I'm not gonna ask for that.
Right.
Can I have a fist king, please?
If you do that, you
No.
might end up with some bad luck on Kijimi. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
But then 3PO puts his hands in, and everyone's like, "Oh, 3PO, you're not included in this thing.
No.
You're a robot, not a living biological being."
Well, luckily, that was one of my notes that I wanted to read from the
Oh, yes,
Star Wars
please, go.
Episode 9,
Go
The Rise
for
of
it.
Skywalker, expanded edition novelization
wanna
by
know
Ray
more.
Carson, New York Times bestselling author. Because they say she couldn't be. Poe extended his own hand. Poe shrugged once and then took it. For Chewie, Ray choked out. C-3PO
Chewie.
teetered over to them and valiantly attempted to join hands too, despite the fact that he didn't have full articulation of his elbows or adequate spatial awareness.
Huh.
Oblivious that he'd
Such a
accidentally
sick
knocked.
burn.
Yeah.
Why does he
No.
not have
Oblivious
spatial
that he'd
awareness?
It's like
Just
a,
two
I-
eyes. Does only
you know
one
what? That's
work?
like it's like a yo mama joke for droids. Like, I hear your mother doesn't have full use of her fingers and spatial awareness.
Oblivious that he'd accidentally knocked Finn's feet with his own hard metal ones, C-3PO solemnly said, "For the Wookiee," which we don't get, I guess, in this. And then,
No.
never underestimate a droid, Ray thought.
Yeah. That line that was Frankensteined in from some previous version of The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
No,
Is it
Yeah.
the
Oh.
third time we see that line in this movie? Or
Yeah.
But
We
was
don't
don't.
see it in this movie. We see it in the
it
book.
is.
We see it in the Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker novelization.
No, but
Well,
but I'm saying
it's three times in the movie, yeah. Because
Yeah, this
it's this time, and then before that, it's during the chase on Pisana.
Yeah. Minute
And
30,
then
I believe.
It comes from something Leia says, which was some previous dialogue from something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, rule of
But wait,
thirds.
but we don't hear it here.
we
They
don't
don't
hear
say
it
it.
here. It's in
No,
the
we
book.
don't hear it here, but
It's
in
in
the
the book,
novel.
but we
it
don't
was-
know.
Oh,
Right.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
It was said,
Yeah, it's not here.
Yeah.
Okay. I do like the sort of comedy of Poe being reluctant to hold C-3PO's hand. He seems to be, they're setting him up as having this, or they've established that he has this Han Solo-esque attitude towards C-3PO, which, very dismissive. Although he's clearly a guy who likes a droid when he meets a good one, he just doesn't particularly like C-3PO. And maybe that's pretty common, right? People just don't like C-3PO.
Does not
At
seem
all.
to be a
He
beloved.
gets
droid.
no respect no matter what.
Ewoks respect him.
Yeah, Ewoks love him.
Oh, that's right.
He's huge on Endor.
Yeah. What a great sort of story beat that was in Return of the Jedi. That after all of this being dumped on, C-3PO gets worshipped as a god by these creatures in the final part of the saga. I always loved that. Didn't you always love that?
Maybe that's his motivation behind all of this, is that he's secretly trying to get to Endor, trying to get back to Endor. He's just trying to manipulate things a little bit. That's why sometimes when he does things that are kind of questionable, he's just trying to get everybody to somehow get him back to Endor so he can just live like a king for the rest of his life.
For everybody's
Like
been,
a god, not even a
everybody you
king, better
meet's
than
been
a king.
crapping on you for 40 years. You're like, I think I'd really like to go retire back to that planet where they worship me as a god.
I should have just let them eat those guys.
Please.
Yeah, I think it would have been, since C-3PO wasn't in Force Awakens and he was barely in The Last Jedi, so I think it would have been cool if they didn't have him in either of those two movies. And in this movie, they're like, we have to go retrieve the wreckage of the Death Star, which naturally would be on Endor because it was right above. And that's when they would have seen C-3PO as like the king, like he would have been all like
living like Colonel Kurtz.
Colonel Kurtz.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
And there would have been a big reel like, oh, we have to go talk to the king of the Ewoks, and then it's dun dun dun. Then you see 3PO,
Right. With a
Master
big
Poe.
headset on.
Oh,
Well,
that
he
would've
wouldn't
been
know
so
them,
fun.
so he would just be like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
I would
Do
have
you
loved
find my
that.
methods unsound?
He's like he's like totally like
Yeah.
the dictator of Endor.
Sir, I had a dream about a snail crawling along a knife's edge. Was it a knife's edge or a razor's edge? I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen Apocalypse Now. Yes, hands for Chewie.
Do we ever see a high five in Star Wars?
Not that I can think of.
I can't think of it either.
I know,
Do we see
yeah.
the heavy metal hands? Do we see like? There's a lot of things that would be nice if we could see, but
I bet.
I don't know. Does anyone give anyone
Darth
the
Vader had
finger?
heavy metal hands.
Well, it's arguable that a droid gives someone the finger. We know
Well, that's
that might be
C-3PO.
the case. Yeah.
That's why he can't get in on this hands for Chewie, because he's got heavy metal hands.
Well, doesn't
that's
BB-8
right.
give someone the finger?
Dio.
BB-8 gives someone the finger.
Depending on who you ask.
Depending on how
I
you read it.
dispute that he's giving the finger, but I know.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I think maybe in the cutscenes when Fixer and Windy or Deke or somebody like that, they give Luke a hard time, then they high fived.
Yeah.
Shape
Does
up,
anyone do
guys.
the drinky motion with like what that guy? He's
General Reichian, I believe, did that.
Yeah.
right.
So then we're
General
in
Reichian thinks it's dangerous for all ships to leave the system.
So
You know
then
what
we're
I'm
in an
talking about.
asteroid field. Once again, Star Wars staple of the asteroid
Yes.
field.
Yeah.
Every trilogy's got one, at least
It's a place to. It's a great place to hide.
It is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also have someone else hiding there, watching you.
Right. That old trick. Yeah, it's I'm not gonna bring it back out, but in the novelization they mentioned that they describe it as more of like a Saturn's rings kind of a thing, and they say that Poe knew about this place, and that nobody really wanted to know why he knew about it.
They don't
Again,
want to
going
ask him
back
any
into his
questions.
shady history. Yeah.
Nothing. They don't want to ask him anything.
They never even asked him any questions. But then yes, the old, and that is the night buzzard, I'm assuming, right? Is that not the night buzzard?
I think
I
Is
didn't
that
know
not
that.
the
I
night
didn't know
buzzard that I
that-
see before me?
That Knights of Ren ship had a name. I didn't know that.
yes, the night buzzard.
The Night Buzzard.
The night buzzard.
So,
Buzzard chasing
yeah.
a falcon.
Again, Earth birds
Or not.
as the name of ships. That's something you like. Nobody questions.
Well-
Nobody questions that.
Because
Falcon.
when you're trying to
What's
come up with the name of
falcon?
a ship, Earth birds are easy.
Oh, thank you very much.
Star Wars Minute.
Hey, that was the British title of that movie.
Yeah, right.
One thing I think is interesting is that I lost track. Now, Rey says, "Oh, that ship seems familiar," but does she know yet that this is the ship that her parents were on when they left?
I don't think she fully does. I think
Okay.
she just
They're hinting
had
at
an
it.
inkling.
She
Yeah, they're
some
hinting
kind
at
of
it, that's
some
what's
kind of
coming.
An inkling. Yeah.
That's what's coming back to her. Is like, this is all very. She's like, I've seen this ship before, and then when she's on it, she's feeling it all, and then eventually, I think Dio kind of, jibes with her brain a little bit, or I don't know. I mean, I don't think she saw him before, but what I mean, like, it's just all helping her to recall what's going on
And I guess
or
it's
feel
good.
just feel it.
I guess it's good in this movie that eventually that flashback vision she has in The Force Awakens does get paid off, because she does have that thing of, wait, come back, and the ship is going off, and Unkar Plutt's grabbing her when she's like, 8 years old or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like just, okay, we saw that, and then what is that all about? We never found out, and it wasn't addressed in the movie after that or anything at all. And so I guess it's good that it pays off eventually. We do figure out what
We
it
did it.
means.
We cracked Joe. He likes the movie now.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I think it also.
I still have many reservations. Like, for example, the explanation they gave us as to that scene, I think is just goofy. But I'm glad there is some sort of payoff. You set things up, you got to pay them off. You set things up, you got to pay them off. You know.
I don't think it's goofy at all. I think, again, it's a nice zigzag where, it made sense that maybe she was a nobody and her parents abandoned her. But then as you get piece by piece, you learn that her parents were protecting her. I mean, I don't know. I think that's a really lovely
then why did they
story
sell
arc.
her? You don't sell someone.
What? That was the only way they knew. They had to get as far away from her as they knew they had to remove themselves from her life. They were completely desperate. I mean, I don't know,
Yeah, but they gave her away so that to protect her.
They had but seconds.
Also, they sold her.
You get the impression they had minutes to decide what to do. That's what I would have thought. They just had. I mean, he was coming for them. She found out, and she had to immediately do something, and this was the best they could do. That's what I think.
If you have to get rid of your daughter immediately, you might as well get a little something for your troubles. I mean,
yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's why would they make it a financial transaction? If their motivation was to protect this poor child because we're noble, great people, and also we're gonna take a check for it.
Because they're not showing up being like, "Hey, my dad is Palpatine, and I want to get rid of these kids." All right, so they're showing up pretending to be junk traders, being like, "We don't need this kid anymore. Take her. What do you give me for this kid?" That way the trail doesn't go back through them. If they just show up as themselves and say like, "Hey, please take my daughter away," then people coming back through following the trail will come back and be like, "Oh wait, the hoity-toity couple, the one guy kind of like the
donated
emperor."
the money, right?
Well, I don't know about that.
But it's just they sold you for drinking. They sold you for drinking money, and they got you out of theirs to protect you. Those two things both are apparently canonical. So it seems they seem in conflict.
But isn't the drinking thing? Isn't Kylo Ren the one who says that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why would we?
Why would you believe that?
Because
she
searched her feelings and knows it to be true. That's how that works.
I think that's the story that they went with when they were doing it in order to obfuscate her true origin.
Yeah.
I liked that as the real story.
I just assumed Uncle Pluck told her that.
Go hang out with Uncle Pluck.
It. Like, how would she even know her origin? It's not like she was.
Well, she didn't. She didn't know. She just knows something inside. She knows it inside. When Kylo Ren says to her, "You know who your parents are." By the way, he doesn't. He's not the one who says to her in The Last Jedi, "Your parents were nobody." He says, "You know the answer," and she says, "They were nobody." And he says, "Yeah, that's a bingo." But
that's what he actually said. That's in the dialogue.
Yeah, but
that's a bingo.
But the point is, it's very much a I know it. I've always known it situation there. It's in her. So, she just couldn't access it.
Clearly, this was one of Palpatine's sons who was just like, this stinks being this person's son. I don't want to be his son. I want to be a nobody. Well,
Yeah, clone, not a son. But
all right. Well, let me say, I think the most important thing I have to say all week, in fact, is something I want to say right now, which is...
I'm afraid we're out of time. Join us next week.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
What were you going to say, Joe?
Which is, despite all of the misgivings I have about this movie, despite all of the ways I don't like this movie, it doesn't quote unquote ruin Star Wars for me. I'm not one of these jackasses who's going to make a YouTube video and say Disney is a disgrace and make an angry face in the thumbnail and just that's not me. It doesn't ruin anything for me. I still love Star Wars. I don't like this one chapter of it. My new way of looking at it is that everybody who picks up Star Wars tells it a little bit differently and they tell their own version of it. And one part of it not perfectly matching up with the other part of it doesn't in any way take anything away from it to me. And so I see Star Wars as very much like the aristocrats joke. Everybody who tells it adds their own little details. They tell it in their own style, and they might change some of the details in the pacing, but it's all basically part of the same thing. So I think one of the reasons I still don't feel this ruins Star Wars, I still like it. I still kind of like this movie, but I like the other movies more. And if I don't like parts of this one, I can ignore them. It's because I think Star Wars is a lot like the aristocrats joke, with maybe almost as much incest. So that's it. That's the I think the crux of what I want to say this week. That's the thing I really want to leave the Rise of Skywalker with from me.
Although
the aristocrats.
Can I
Let me just say, Joe, if you could though be an angry kind of do an angry rant with a little angry face thumbnail, that would really help our numbers. So.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I just
Okay. Well, we'll
right.
work on that.
Sorry, Susan. What were you going to say?
Just I know we don't have that much more time, and it's the last day that we're going to be here. So I just needed to, because we have Dio at the end, and Dio. Oh my gosh, Dio, right? So I wanted to just put forth one of the other things I love about Star Wars, and that I think they nailed once again, is the neurotic droids. Now I know C-3PO is obviously neurotic, but used to comic effect, a little bit more. But I think they really hit some interesting emotional depth with these really messed up, like, mentally not unwell robot, droids, and of course they continued this with Andor, you have B2, what is it, B2 Emo?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like taking up another notch, where he's
I like
just,
him a lot.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
I love these neurotic robots. I love it. R5D4 even, although I'm not as crazy, but, about him. But, there's this whole, like, they're afraid, they're sad, they're lonely, the whole thing. And to me, Dio is the greatest. He's just I just could not love this character more. Here he is. And,
I do love him too.
His the look of this, it's very, it has Mickey's glove, kind of reminiscent of, it's that old-timey cartoon. You see his glove, but you also see that kind of old-timey cartoon
like
kind
1930s,
of aesthetic to it.
Almost Fleischer.
Some of us, yeah, exactly. For some of us, makes us crazy, crazy happy. It does for me. And then just his little stutter, his no, thank you, no, thank you. Oh, it's just beautiful. And then how they use that with Rey again to build her character, where she's just so loving and just like, just so nurturing to this little really damaged guy. I think it's beautiful. That's one of the reasons, many reasons this movie makes me so happy and so like moved, I cried a few times in this movie, and I really didn't so much with the others. I don't know. This movie just really does it for me, and that's one of the reasons.
Well,
Dio.
Here.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the final round of trivia?
Let's hear it.
Sure. Yeah.
Final round of trivia. Number 3. These are the top 5, 20, 100 things you didn't know about the Rise of Skywalker. Number 3. Billy D. Williams trained for his role by doing 100 mustache thrusts every morning. Number 5, a private screening of this film was the deathbed request of Charlie Daniels.
Oh, who died?
Devil Went There to Georgia is one of my favorite songs in the world.
And finally, the final piece of trivia about this film, number 3, Ewoks are real.
Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's disappointing.
Really?
I never liked Ewoks. I love Dio.
Well,
don't like
you can
don't
tell
like
them
Ewoks.
yourself now.
Yeah, that's the good news.
I will. I'm going
And
to.
I'd like to see how that goes.
Any angry Ewoks, leave your comments below.
Get ready to get Ewok canceled.
Susan, how long has it been since Chewbacca was brought back to life?
Are we in the life clock?
Can we run a stopwatch?
To the life clock.
Can we see your Chewbacca clock once more? Because people need to get a good look at you made this. You created this thing and will now be marketing it on the Star Wars Minute T-Public, I believe. You can get that. Let's scan that image and see if we can get
scan it with the clock set to 2 minutes and 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Committee
and remember
of
to
Scientists.
Get your Star Wars Minute merch, because in the words of Kylo Ren, you need a T-shirt.
Kill it if you have to.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us all week. People should check out the Comedy Film Funnel, hosted by our 2 illustrious guests. Anything else you guys want to promote, plug, etc.?
JoeDator.com for all your Joe Dater needs.
And Comedy Film Funnel's on YouTube. We have it's a podcast, but it's also on YouTube. So do see our dumb faces and see us talking about Airplane and Cabin Boy, The In-Laws, Bedazzled, Playtime. We did some pretty interesting stuff, and we're going to continue this summer, hopefully.
Should maybe do some comedies.
Film Un film du Jacques Tati. We even go into some high art there.
Brain candy. We did some. Yeah. Team America.
I know, and we do epic deep dives into these films.
Oh, speaking of puppets, we did a whole puppet series. So Palpatine, I should have mentioned
a lot of talk
him.
about puppets. Yeah.
A lot of talk about puppets. For some reason.
Yeah.
Inevitably,
Puppet
it comes
talk.
up.
So, what if at the end of this movie, Rey says her name is Rey Palpatine, and then her eyes glow red, and you hear Vincent Price laughing over the soundtrack, and that's how it ends.
I like the
that
end,
was the
question
end.
mark?
Yeah, right. The end question mark. I think that would have been a good way to end it.
The fan edit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listeners, how do you think the movie should have ended? Call our hotline, 8-Day Greedo, and let us know your thoughts on something that's upcoming in the movie. Did you like the big scene where they're fighting on the Death Star? Are you a fan of Felicity as Poe's ex-girlfriend?
Power Ranger.
As Felicity Power Ranger. Give us a call, 8-Day Greedo. If it's short and funny and entertains us, you very well might wind up on the show.
Yeah.
With
Don't
all
just
of
call
us.
in and say, I don't like this.
Yeah.
That's not going to make it on.
Yeah. And please don't tell us anything about our car's warranty being expired. We already know. So stop leaving messages. But you can join us next week on an all-new
Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute. Star Wars Minute.
Minute.